and welcome to another fabulous episode of Thyroid Refresh TV, a video podcast dedicated to helping you live a thyroid healthy lifestyle. We're so glad to be back with you again. I'm Danna Bowman.
And I'm Ginny Mahar, and we are the dynamic duo behind Thyroid Refresh and Thyroid 30. And we're thrilled to be here today with Rachel Hill of the Invisible Hypothyroidism.com, an award-winning thyroid advocacy blog. So Rachel is joining us today from her home in Nottingham, England. Welcome, Rachel.
Hi, guys. Thank you very much for having me.
It's so good to finally put a face with a name and with an email. We've been kind of corresponding for several years now, so we're so very thrilled to have you on the show. Before we get started, I want to read your bio for everybody so that those of you that don't know Rachel can get to know her a little bit better. Rachel Hill, a highly ranked thyroid patient advocate, writer, and author, created the award-winning advocacy and website, The Invisible Hypothyroidism. Diagnosed with hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, she talks openly and honestly about what it's like to have these and what has helped her and many others to recover their health and thrive with thyroid disease. She is passionate about helping those with hypothyroidism and giving them a voice, and is well recognized as a valuable contributor to the thyroid community. Her work can be found on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can find her on all those social media platforms, and you might want to check out her amazing book, Be Your Own Thyroid Advocate. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me on. I'm so excited to get chatting.
Listening to that, I just feel like it's, another soldier in this army. This is one of our comrades with this shared mission to help people understand, like, you don't have to feel so bad. There's a lot more you can do than, just taking medication. Medication's important and all of that, but we're so excited to talk to you today about that, about the need for advocacy and how we can be our own advocates and, how we can reclaim our health so that this doesn't have to diminish our quality of life. I sometimes feel like I'm thankful for Hashimoto's. It's taught me so much about taking care of myself. It's connected me with such amazing people. But we'd love to hear your personal story, Rachel, with hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's. Can you tell us about your journey?
Yeah, sure. So for me, it all began at about 16 years old. So I was actually quite young when I started getting symptoms, and then when I was diagnosed as well. Essentially, I caught swine flu when it was quite a big thing and it was all over the news. I was one of those people that got it. And from then, my immune system was never really the same. Even when the virus passed on, I would get aches and pains in my legs. I was quite a tired teenager. People labelled me as being quite lazy and just not wanting to get off the sofa and that sort of thing. And essentially, these sort of symptoms mounted up over about 5 years. I started getting leg cramps, muscle cramps when I was training to do like 5Ks and runs. Acne just got worse, even though I was getting older. When most people grow out of it as they come out of their teen years. It was just getting worse for me. At one point, I lost about 80% of my hair. My eyebrows thinned, my weight was going up and down. There was all these mounting symptoms, and I kept going back to the doctors. I didn't link up the dots myself that they were connected as such, and neither were any of the doctors or GPs that I was seeing either. It wasn't until I was 20, almost 21 years old, so about 5 years in at this point, that, and as fate would have it, the GP that I saw on this particular day, that I went in again to complain I was still tired years later, that she decided to just run a load of tests because she was retiring, and I was the very last patient that she was ever seeing before she retired this afternoon. And so she ran things for glandular fever and all these various things, including my thyroid antibodies and thyroid hormone levels. And then when those results came back, just 2 or 3 days later, I got a phone call from the GP just to say, essentially, you've got Hashimoto's and the results are off the charts, along with borderline hypothyroidism, although I did not feel borderline in these symptoms and how I felt. It was all really just kind of a shock, and I hit this whirlwind of emotion. I was relieved. I was also quite scared. I was quite daunted by it. And then, I guess just embarking on this journey of trying to understand how it happened, almost why it happened to me, I guess. I think a lot of patients enter into this, like I say, whirlwind of I think feeling grief-stricken to a certain extent and very confused. And that is where the Invisible Hypothyroidism, my blog and my website was born from. It was born out of a frustration and this sense of feeling lost. And at the time, I was also very depressed as well. And I just wanted to record my personal journey as well as everything I was reading and the amazing resources out there in these, thyroid books and other websites and blogs and studies and podcasts and everything. I just wanted to start collating it and sharing information in a easily digestible, I guess, format with other thyroid patients who are fatigued and brain fogged, and all of it can be so overwhelming. And to just share my journey and hope that other people could get their health back on track whilst I was also still figuring mine out, just to, I know, build this big community. The big thyroid family is what I refer to it as. And through that, like you said earlier, I've been able to meet so many great people, patients, other advocates, doctors, and through uniting and sharing everything that we're all learning and experiencing, we can just learn so much and empower each other to advocate towards that better health, which is essentially what we all want.
So how old were you when you finally got diagnosed?
20, almost 21, 25 now.
Okay. Just want to try to get a feel for where you were at in your life and your health journey. And you said you lost 80% of your hair. Is that what you said?
Yes. So when I was 17, I went into the hospital with another strange bout of flu that my body just wasn't fighting off. After this swine flu at 16, I was catching various illnesses and things. And this particular bad case put me in hospital, and I ended up in intensive care. I was unconscious over my 18th birthday, which was quite unfortunate. And when I left, I was, quite badly anemic. My hair was just falling out. I lost a lot of weight. My skin was really dry. I just looked really gaunt. I just looked very unwell. And again, at that point, no one ever thought to test my thyroid antibodies, or even just TSH as a basic. Nothing was ever tested until another good few years later. And this is where it's just so frustrating. The knowledge and the awareness isn't out there, because until we're diagnosed, that's the point that we realize and we hear about what a thyroid gland is. None of us know what it is before we're even diagnosed with a condition.
And what a tragedy to be in the hospital with all these doctors and experts and to leave there without them having tested your thyroid. For me, it seems, because I've been doing this for a while now, to me, it seems like it should just be a part of everybody's life. You should get your thyroid tested when you have anything wrong. Like, it should just be like even a starting point, a baseline. I'm going to have my children start, they're in their teens now, so that they have a baseline, whether I think that they have thyroid issues or not, so that you can at least know from there. And if they had tested you and you were 10 and it was at this level, then they tested you at 18, they would have been able to see something. Probably,
I think that's another really important thing as well. A big piece of this thyroid jigsaw puzzle when we're talking about getting our health back on track and advocating for ourselves is understanding what tests we should be having done, but also what levels we should be aiming for. So for so many people, it's not just about falling within range, these big wide ranges. It's about finding that place within range that we refer to as optimal. That is the place that you feel good at. So that can differ from person to person. But like you say, because so many of us haven't been tested before we got ill, we don't know where in that range we should fall, where we fall when we feel well. So when I was diagnosed and I was told, but you're only borderline, we'll then withhold the medication for that a little bit longer, I certainly didn't feel borderline. And I know now that I just feel much better with those results further up in range, as a lot of people do.
That is really interesting because, you said your
antibodies were off the charts, but your TSH was borderline, it was like almost normal. I mean, that's part of, I think, one of the tricky things with Hashimoto's is that can go up, down, depending on what's happening. If we have a ton of antibodies that are attacking our thyroid tissue, that can pour, a bunch of excess thyroid hormone into our bodies. And I mean, it's just here in the US, and I'm curious, I'd love to touch on US and the UK and maybe some differences that you've, noticed in your community, talking with your community, because we also have a lot of international people and a lot of people from the UK. And I think there's similar challenges, but maybe it's a little bit different. But I know here in the US, it's like, for 4 years, my GP only tested my TSH. my thyroid stimulating hormone. And that is not uncommon. I think that's more common than not. Is it the same in the UK?
Yeah, I mean, I was just having my TSH tested for quite a while, even when I was then eventually started on levothyroxine. And yeah, that didn't even change that much once on levothyroxine. But then when I hounded them enough to start testing the free T3 and free T4 and my actual antibodies more regularly, that's when you can see that they're moving with your medication dosages, even when TSH isn't really moving. And I think that's what is that is what's so shocking to a certain extent, because your TSH it gives an indicator, but as we know, it's just part of this big panel that gives us the most comprehensive look. And wherever possible, we should always be using the full ranges of tests, surely, to get the most comprehensive idea of what's going on and get the best treatment possible and get that person optimized. But here in the UK, TSH is standard. Most people will never have their T4 or T3 tested. Most people don't seem to get antibodies tested, so a lot of people have no clue what Hashimoto's is or autoimmune hypothyroidism. And then even when it comes to medication, levothyroxine is the only thing prescribed over here for sort of 99% of the time. I don't know anyone who's ever been prescribed NDC medications, and there's ongoing campaigns with the government at the moment and our NHS service, because a lot of patients have had their T3 pulled and they're now unable to work, and they're in this sort of limbo state of living but not thriving.
So they were on T3 and then it was taken away from them?
And then it's been pulled because the NHS can't afford it. So, it's great that we have a national health service over here, and the NHS works for so many things. But when it comes to thyroid conditions, there are just so many issues with it. And this T3 campaign at the moment is huge. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult to get anything other than T4 medications over here. I'm currently looking at going private because I unfortunately have to self-source my DT medication at the moment, which is ridiculous. It's really far from ideal. It's obviously carries its own risks, but it's what I have to do in order to get out of bed and work and keep a roof over my head. So yeah, I mean, it's quite sort of dark situation over here in terms of thyroid treatment at the moment. It seems that we're going backwards when other parts of the world, like the US, are taking small but at least forward steps.
Are you connected with Lorraine Cleaver at all? Have you followed her work, the Scottish Thyroid Petition?
Yes.
Which I know she's doing some good work. I was just interested because I haven't heard very much lately. Do you know if she's made any progress lately?
I think the last thing I saw about a year, maybe a year and a half ago, she decided that she was stepping back from her thyroid patient advocacy work. Okay. I think she dedicated so many years and so much time. He was now taking some time out to, putting some self-care and look after her own health and focus on that for a while.
It's so important. I just didn't know if there was anything, new that maybe she was working on. I hadn't checked, so I just wanted to see, because she did do some good pioneering work out there.
Yeah, we've got a lot of great people over here. I sort of speak to Thyroid UK quite often, as well as some of the other charities and advocacies as well. But we're hoping to get T3 back to the people that need it, but it's very slow. I mean, it's been a good year or two now, and all that's really happened so far is more people have had it pulled. But we've just got to keep working and fighting for it. And this is why sharing personal stories, especially personal stories of these medications working, that's why it's so important to get them out there and just keep shouting from the rooftops that, one medication doesn't work for everyone. There is no one size fits all. We have to approach each person as the individual that they are.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, we're all special snowflakes. And I think that's so much of the appeal too of the invisible hypothyroidism is, you share on such a personal level, and you've been through some of the severe symptoms, and that's not really that uncommon either. I mean, I feel like I take it for granted sometimes that, yes, I have my own story and have been through my own personal struggle, but some people are very much, unable to live a normal life because of the symptoms of hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, thyroid disease in general. And it is powerful to share your personal story. Can you tell us a little bit about your book, Be Your Own Thyroid Advocate When You're Sick and Tired of Being Sick and Tired? This was published last year, so I'm just curious about, what drove you to say, I've got to write a book. I've got to
get this out there.
Message out there. Yeah.
Yeah. It came out almost 6 months ago now. And essentially, for those that aren't aware, it's a retelling of my personal story of first having those symptoms, getting diagnosed, and then still taking a good few years to get my health back on track with it. And like I say, slotting those jigsaw pieces back into place, because there can be so many pieces involved in getting your health back on track with thyroid disease and hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's in particular. So the book it goes through educating others on those thyroid jigsaw pieces through the medium of my own story at the same time. The book really came out of a lot of people wanting me to put one together. So I started out as a blogger, writing articles for myself and a few other people. And I never really considered writing a book, but so many people asked for it, and they wanted me to consolidate a lot of everything that was already on my blog and website and that they'd heard in various podcasts into one place. And, they'd read loads of other thyroid books, but they wanted something that was just a little bit lighter to read. My book does reference to medical studies and research and things like that, among other places. But the main purpose of it really is to share my personal experience and the things I've learned, and then almost signpost people to places where they can find that more in-depth information. I'm a thyroid patient advocate myself. I'm not a doctor or trained medical professional. So where I stand is I prefer to share my personal experiences and this information that I've learned, and then if I can equip people with that as a solid basis, they can go out there and dig more into some research and studies if they want to. But if at that moment in time they're still quite tired and brain fogged and their health hasn't started picking up yet, then it's at least giving them a solid foundation to start from. So that's really where it came from. And like I say, it started out as a lot of people asking for it, and then I just got to a point where I thought, why not? I could actually do this. I've already got all of the content in me. I've just got to get it out there and put it out into a medium. And I'm just really thankful that it's been so well received.
I'm curious to know a little bit about, really quickly, about your kind of healing journey. I don't know if you mentioned this earlier. I'm having a hard time understanding your amazing accent, which I absolutely love. but tell me, what things did you do if you're kind of restricted in what you can get and can do over there in England? How did you get your medication, and how did you decide what you exactly needed and that kind of thing? Just a few little tidbits of how you got to be where you are today.
So I was originally on levothyroxine, like I said, and I was on that for about 6 months before I eventually decided that it just wasn't working for me, and I wasn't willing to, wait around for a bit longer. The doctors kept saying to give it a few more months. It could take a couple of years to get sorted, and I just thought, no, I'm clearly just getting worse on this. So I needed to take action. I asked to be prescribed T3 or NDT medication via the NHS that we have over here. That was just a no-go. I could have sort of kept on with it for a few more years and may have eventually got a trial, but I made the hard decision to self-source my medication in the end. So I take an NDT, a natural desiccated thyroid. The brand I currently take is Thyroid S, and I source that from Thailand. As I touched on earlier, it's far from ideal. It carries its own risks and dangers. But I was at a point on levothyroxine where I was attending one day of work a week. I was bedbound. My husband, or back then my boyfriend, was having to carry me up and down the stairs, take me to the toilet, shower. I was in effect disabled to a certain extent. And so it was either I can carry on taking this medication that doesn't seem to be doing anything, or in fact seems to be making me worse, or I can take a risk and self-source this medication that may just give me my life back. And within about 2 weeks of being on that, the brain fog started lifting and symptoms started sort of dropping off. And then about 3 months in, my life was just completely different. I was back at work completely. I was able to exercise again. We moved house, we bought our own house, we were enjoying decorating it. Life just stopped revolving around my thyroid condition. And then from there, I consulted a functional medicine practitioner and we worked on my gut health. I've gone gluten-free. I've tried dairy-free, which didn't really seem to do much for me. So right now I'm still just gluten-free. But I think a lot of it is trial and error, and I think this is where the message of being your own thyroid advocate is really important. If you can make yourself aware of all these possible things that you might need to look into or test out, then that is where a lot of the power can come from, to take it back into your own health, back into your own hands, and actually making progress in your health. So yeah, gut health, vitamin levels. A lot of people don't think to test things like B12 or iron or vitamin D, and they're really quite basic things that can contribute to a lot of the similar symptoms of hypothyroidism. So actually gut health in your diet, and finding the right exercise as well. I have a past history of disordered eating as well, so unhealthy eating and exercising habits, and that for me was quite a big piece. So yeah, I think you've just got to look at it holistically, and really consider all these various things that come into play. I think just focusing on one thing like medication, it almost sets you up to fail, because for some people they can just take their levothyroxine or Synthroid every day and they're seemingly fine. But for so many of us, it's just not the case. So I think you've got to be open-minded, do your research, gather your resources, and then hopefully seek out the right kind of practitioner, which for me was a functional medicine practitioner, and have them partner up with you in your healthcare to trial things and figure out all those missing jigsaw pieces.
Right. I just want to clarify really quick too, in case anybody out
Out there listening is confused, that a lot of us are on levothyroxine or other names of a synthetic T4 only medication, which is the inactive form of thyroid hormone, and the body has to convert that into T3, which is the active form of thyroid hormone. And a lot of people find relief by taking NDT, or natural desiccated thyroid, which has T4, T3, T2, and T1 in it. Other people find relief by taking T4 in addition to maybe like a compounded time release T3 medication. So your body has more of that active thyroid hormone. I just started a T3 medication, and I had been, kind of backsliding again, really working hard with diet and lifestyle to overcome some hurdles. And we tested before and after, and it was like, well, my antibodies went down, my brain fog feels better, but I still just wasn't making it over those hurdles. And my T3 was at the lower end of the normal range. It was far from optimal. And it hasn't even been 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like a new person, So I can imagine how fired up a lot of people in the UK are, having been on that T3, having gone, oh, I feel so much better. To me, it's all about energy, right? The thyroid is energy. And when you don't have that energy, when your body isn't converting T4, my TSH looks great on paper. But when you do the full comprehensive testing, you can see like there's an imbalance here, and addressing that, it's like a whole new world. And so I just want to, clarify that for people, and emphasize how important it is to optimize your medication and find a good doctor. But I think, you say it perfectly, Rachel. Even, you have a functional medicine practitioner. I know I work with a naturopath. Danna's in a new location. She's, finding her new healthcare team. But even when you're like here in the US paying out of pocket for something like a naturopath or a functional MD, you still have to really take a magnifying glass to those lab results. I was the one who had to say to my ND, look, I think we should adjust this. I don't feel like this is working for me. You are the best person to be your own advocate. And what it really comes down to is, are you going to give up and accept a compromised quality of life? Or are you going to work for change?
Yeah, definitely.
And that's a big thing, because change is hard, and working for it is hard, especially when you don't feel well. We totally understand. And I was thinking of that a few moments ago, right before you said that, Jenny. I was thinking to myself, it's difficult, and we get it, but we get it, and it's worth it. Like Jenny said, do you want to just kind of give up? Do you want to be in this place where you're just not sure, and Or is it worth it to you to start living life and being able to go to all the kids' soccer games or go to all the concerts or whatever it is that you love to do? And so it is hard. It's not easy. There isn't just a magic anything that we can do. And I think that some people are kind of stuck in that they want the easy thing because they've been tired and they've been out of energy for so long. And so we understand, but you really do have to be your own health advocate. You just do. And it's worth it. It's so worth it to get up off the couch and be able to go up and down the stairs on your own.
Literally, like it's not until you've been in that position that you realize how much you take for granted as well. Like just being able to walk to the bus stop that's a 10-minute walk away. There was a point when I couldn't do that. There was a point when it wasn't a choice whether I wanted to work or not. I physically couldn't get out of bed and go to work. My mental health was at such a low point that every aspect of my life was affected. So physically I was struggling, but mentally I was a wreck as well. I was just breaking down. I couldn't keep myself together. And like you say, I think it's difficult to take that first step and to dip your toe into the pool of actually advocating for yourself. But you can start with small steps. It doesn't need to be overwhelming. You can pick up your resources and start implementing things bit by bit. If you think if a gluten-free diet might help you, you don't need to completely cut it out straight away. Although you'll only feel the benefits if you're completely gluten-free, you can ease yourself into it. You can start researching about different medications and take things into your doctor armed with information to talk to them. You can make a list, take a post-it note of a few notes in to, bullet points that you want to talk with your doctor when you get in there. That alone is advocating for yourself, going in, knowing what you want to get out of an appointment and making sure that you get to express everything you want to and leave that appointment knowing that you got to talk about everything you want to and that hopefully you're moving towards a better health. There's small steps like that. It needn't be this really daunting prospect to start advocating for yourself. You can do it bit by bit.
And a lot of times it's in your head. You tell yourself it's this big thing when really you can take baby small steps. You can go 3, 4, 30 days. Like some people do when they're playing Thyroid 30. You can try it for a couple of days. You can just see, you can work yourself into, okay, I can live without this. I can do this. Baby steps are really huge.
They're huge.
And they're empowering. So you can start to see the benefits. And you don't have to feel like it's the rest of your life. Oh my gosh, the rest of my life I'm not going to have dairy, I'm not going to have gluten, you start setting yourself up for failure. And it really doesn't have to be that way. It can just be small, sustainable steps that you do that make all the difference.
And I think it's important to take each day as it comes as well. Today I'm going to remove gluten, or I'm going to try this new thing. I'm going to start making more of an effort to do, Epsom salt baths and things like that. You can take it step by step, and I think it's important to not get too far ahead of yourself as well. Things can seem really overwhelming if you have this long list of things that you want to read into or try or give a go, or things to tick off your health list. But just concentrate on what you need to get done today or even this week. And just focus on nailing those things. Day one, you've managed to stay gluten-free for a whole day. Well, from someone who used to eat a lot of gluten just without thinking about it, that's actually a huge thing to celebrate and to conquer. So, I think sort of implementing things like mindfulness as well, that can be really helpful. And just being aware of the small wins, and also being aware that it's not a linear journey. Getting well with thyroid disease, it can be up and down. Flare-ups happen. You shouldn't beat yourself up when they happen. No regular person is healthy for every single day of their lives. They still catch bugs and colds and they get ill. And so when we have flare-ups or we maybe slip up, we get gluten or whatever that is in your personal case, you've just got to kind of get through that day, know that the better days will be coming again, and then just move on. Don't linger on things too long, and just don't get bogged down by the overwhelm that is getting diagnosed with a often lifelong health condition. Just start putting into place the small things that you can do and build on that.
Yeah. And it's amazing how far you can go with those baby steps, and a journey isn't like, it's different than taking like a trip where, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go from point A to point B for this many days, and then I'm going to come home. It's like a journey is full of unexpected surprises, sometimes challenges, sometimes amazing victories and wins and delights. And, ultimately, I think the idea is that we're always moving towards better health. We're even just adopting a new mindset of what does my body need to feel well. And, I know you've used a lot of diet and lifestyle, which is, of course, what we're all about, is helping people like us who want to, to make the change and reclaim their health. And you kind of have to look at, over time, at your pace in a way that's right for you and that works for your body. You sort of do have to look at all these different aspects of your life. And that's one thing we kind of have to clarify for people sometimes with Thyroid 30, is that we're not trying to sell 30 days and you're healed.
No,
absolutely not. This is to help people who are like, I've really been wanting to try, like going gluten-free, for example, or I really need to get active again. I have, some progress I need to make. So this is going to give them that extra little oomph towards their goals. But Rachel, you have participated in Thyroid 30 with us a couple times, and I'd love to hear about your experience with that. Can you just share a little bit with our listeners about, as a thyroid patient, what that was like for you, how it helped?
Yes, yeah. So I think one of the most powerful parts of a program like Thyroid 30 is the camaraderie and the support that you get from other people that are in the same boat, that are wanting to accomplish the same things and make the same long-term changes. And that alone just provides people that have quite an isolating and lonely condition sometimes, with people who are experiencing the same thing and thinking the same way, wanting to get to the same goals. And that alone can do a lot for, pushing your health forwards and getting your mind in the right place and making that commitment. I think for me, out of all of the R's that you have for your program, the one that got me moving and got me exercising again was most important. When my health was at its worst, I sort of had to draw back on exercising completely. So, I ran a few 5Ks. I would go out running in the evening with my husband. I went to dance lessons. I did badminton lessons. I walked sort of a 45-minute walk to and from work every day. I was very active and very fit. And then I got diagnosed with this health condition. And for a while, I tried to keep that up. And all it did was drive my health backwards. So for a while, I just had to stop doing any exercise completely, apart from walking, as far as I could do. And I think I got into a bit of a habit of actually getting a little bit lazy, and instead of then trying to ease myself into exercising again, I just almost resigned myself to, well, I can't, I've got these health conditions, I just can't, instead of actually trying and easing myself back into it. and as part of the Thyroid 30 program, one of the R's is to get yourself moving for at least 10 minutes a day and
reactivate.
Yes.
Yeah, she's talking about the 8 daily rituals. So yeah, that's the one where, you score yourself on these 8 daily rituals each day, which makes you aware of all these aspects of your life. How am I doing in each different aspect? And the goal with Reactivate is that you do some kind of movement that's appropriate for your body for 10 minutes a day or more. I mean, I know for a lot of people, it's like, well, once I go 10 minutes, then I can go 20 or 30.
That's it.
But sometimes when you set that reachable goal, it helps people like, well, it's only 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. And before I knew it, I was out walking every evening for an hour and 15 minutes. And that's something that Thyroid 30 got installed in me back in, I think, October time, when I did the full one. And I'm still doing that now. I'm out walking. I'll go out mid-afternoon for at least 45 minutes, and in the evening when my husband gets home, we'll often go out and we'll do at least 45 minutes up to maybe even an hour and a half, and we'll just chat and walk. We're not allowed to look at our phones. We've got to really connect with one another and take in the fresh air and really make an experience out of it. And if you've got friends, family, a romantic other half, that can get involved with that as well, it's great support, and it's free, it's simple, it's a really quick way that you can get your body, moving towards better health again. You can start off with 5 or 10 minutes and work your way up as much as your body will allow you to. And I think that's what's important. I think a lot of people like me do the wrong exercise for too long, and they're either hindering their health or taking it completely the wrong way, instead of actually listening to their body and going at a pace that suits them. And that's the main thing that I really took away from the program, and that is something that I'm still implementing every day, and that my husband is now reminding me, each evening after dinner, if we got your movement in for today yet. And even though I'm not on the program this time around, I'm still out there doing it every single day, making it a priority.
Well, that's what we wanted. Thank you so much. And it's funny because, with doing your possible hour walk with your husband, you can tick off a few different R's. You can get your, your reactivate. You can get your, help me, Jenny. I just
rejuvenate.
Rejuvenate.
The mental health.
Yes,
right? That's so huge, right? And today is actually the last day of our spring wellness adventure. I'm not sure when this show is going to air, but my players, before we start, you pick like a primary intention or goal, or maybe a couple of the 8 R's. I'm really going to focus on these. These are the ones that if I have a crazy busy day, these are going to be like the 2 I really won't negotiate on. And my goal this time around was to get strong without hurting myself. I think that's so relatable, Rachel. Like I would always either, I was either doing nothing or I would like overdo it.
Too much.
Like, boot camp, P90X, like way. And then I'd go, how come I'm not getting to the point where I feel my endurance building or I feel my energy going up? I just feel exhausted. Well, and that, there's a lot of information out there, on our site and elsewhere about special considerations for exercise for thyroid and autoimmune patients as well. Just not overstressing the body quite so much.
Basically listening to yourself and taking baby steps, right? That's basically the bottom line. And I'm so glad you're still doing it. You're continuing on.
But what makes me so excited is you're still doing it. That's what, it's like, don't let this 30 days be limited to 30 days. We want to help you make those incremental life changes that are sustainable and that stick. So, well, it's been awesome having you as part of Thyroid 30. So we're grateful to you for participating. And
thank you very much for having me. Like I say, it's imprinted onto my husband as well. And I think something we were talking about the other day is this idea of getting your thyroid condition, back on track and getting your health back on track. It's not like a checklist. You don't have 10 things to tick off and then you're all good to go and you can almost revert back to normal. It's a maintenance thing. And again, this is what Thyroid 30 aims to tell people and instill in people, is that if you can get into these habits and they just become part of your everyday life, then they can come together to make such a big change to how you feel mentally and physically. Instead of just thinking you can just tick all these things off and that's it. It's a maintenance thing, and we've got to put in that commitment every single day. And I think that's really important to make people aware of.
Thank you.
I love that. It's a maintenance thing, or I've heard it referred to as like, these are lifestyle diseases.
Yes. Yeah.
And that really resonates. I mean, it comes down so much to lifestyle, in your opinion, what do you feel are some of the biggest mistakes people make when they've received a thyroid diagnosis?
I think probably one of the biggest is not confirming whether your hypothyroidism is autoimmune. I think whether you've got Hashimoto's or not can make such a big difference to the kind of things you can implement to help the way you feel. I think not questioning other medication options. T4 only medication works for a lot of people. If it didn't, there won't be so many people taking it and getting on fine day to day, but there's obviously a lot of us that it doesn't work for. That's why we're in these communities, and that's why there's advocates and charities talking all about it. So I think it's crucial to find out if your hypothyroidism is autoimmune, because like I say, that can change what things help you and what form part of this big thyroid jigsaw puzzle that you need to slot back into place. but exploring other medication options as well as ensuring that you're getting the full thyroid panel testing done every single time, so that you can compare your results and compare them with your symptoms and how you're feeling at the time. I think those are the three key things that all of us should be doing as standard and should get into the habit of doing. And they're probably the three main principles behind advocating for your thyroid health as well.
Yeah. I'm curious too, what do you feel are some of the main roadblocks that prevent people, that keep them stuck in this, compromised reality and poor health? What do you hear from your community as far as, I just can't because A, B, or C?
A lot of the time people just seem to be working with the wrong type of practitioner, healthcare medical practitioner. Conventional mainstream medicine is great for many things, and as a whole it works for a lot of people. For a lot of conditions it can be really beneficial. Again, if it didn't work it wouldn't be there, but I think a lot of people just don't get what they need from mainstream or conventional doctors, and sort of in my situation I see my regular GP on the NHS, but I also have a functional medicine practitioner that I see that kind of gets incorporated into my healthcare team. And I think a lot of the time people can't make these steps forward, trying different medications or getting the right testing, because they've not got the right practitioner to run those tests or provide those options and resources. So yeah, I think that is a big one. And I'm not too familiar with how it works in the US in terms of your insurance and what levels of things are included. I think it differs depending on your plans. But here in the NHS, here in the UK, if we want to see anyone off the NHS, then it does just mean having to go private, unfortunately. And a lot of people can't access that. So yeah, I think for most people, finding the right practitioner to partner up in with your healthcare is the main sort of roadblock, as well as mental health and well-being as well. You've got to be in the right place mentally to start implementing changes and driving your health forward. And if your mental health isn't in the right place, nothing much is really going to work either, unfortunately.
Well, it sounds like you have a really supportive partner too. I think that's something we hear occasionally, is that people just lack the support at home. They're afraid to inconvenience their family by saying, well, I'm not going to cook with gluten anymore, for example. We're going to eat differently as a family because I want us to all eat the same food, or
and you can become invisible, which is why you referenced and used the name the invisible hypothyroidism, because you feel alone and you're not getting the support and they don't really understand.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, can you talk about the importance of what it has meant to you to have a supportive partner?
So I've been with Adam since I was 16. We were each other's first boyfriends and girlfriends, and we got married last year. So we've been on quite the journey together. In terms of my health alone, that alone has been such a huge thing for us to experience and get through. Luckily for us, it's now we're out the other side. It has strengthened our relationship, and we've grown so much and developed so much more as individual people as well as a couple. I think whether that is the case for everyone really depends on who you are as individuals, but also how you approach the situation and the topic as well. And I guess this is where it leads on to my current big project, which is writing my next book with Adam, called You, Me and Hypothyroidism. And that is essentially going to be a resource for the friends and family and our loved ones around us, to give them the information that they need to understand what's going on with the person that's been diagnosed with hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, what's happened to them, why their personality changed, the mood swings, fertility issues, the libido, everything from romantic relationships down to parents and siblings and friends as well. We're putting together this resource to help more relationships thrive with it and share what we've learned as a couple. Adam is writing it with me so that he can share sort of all of his golden nuggets of knowledge that he can pass on to other people, so that they can understand and do more and be supportive with that person that they know with a thyroid condition. Because if you can get that right, then the thyroid condition doesn't need to be the third wheel in your relationship. It can be something that you barely even have to think about if you're able to work as a team. Otherwise, it really can just take over people's lives in terms of their work lives, their social lives, but almost also romantically and with their families and at home as well. But that really doesn't need to be the case. We can live well, and like you said earlier, have a good quality of life with hypothyroidism. But a big part of that is building a supportive support network around you. And I'm incredibly thankful to have Adam with me. I think because we were together so young, and he was there pretty much when the symptoms started. We've gone through it all together, and we've grown together, and I think that has just formed quite a solid basis for our relationship. But for a lot of other people who are struggling to get to that point of still having a really strong supportive relationship, but also battling a thyroid condition, this is the material that we're hoping will get them there, so that, like I say, it doesn't need to be this third wheel in your relationship just elbowing its way in. It can sit on the outlines while you're still able to thrive and have a really good relationship.
That's so special.
Yes, and exciting and needed. What an amazing resource that's going to be. I feel like there's absolutely such a need for that. And I love that the two of you are writing it together, not only so other thyroid patients can kind of see what are some ways I could maybe be navigating this better with my partner, to ask for the support I need, to advocate for myself, not just at the doctor's office, but in my home, in my relationships, but also for our partners and spouses and significant others to have a voice, from Adam's perspective of what this has been like for him, what he has learned, how he has grown with you through this process of, your health journey. And that's so exciting. We'll be really thrilled to share that with our audience when that comes out. So do you know when do you have like a due date or a published date for that yet? Or
we're aiming for the 1st of August, which is coming around really soon now.
Of 2019, this year.
Yes, this year, yeah. So we're close to finishing our first draft, and then similar with my first book, we'll be reaching out to people in the community to read and provide feedback and make sure that we cover everything that people need us to cover, essentially. And then we'll be aiming to get that out towards the end of the summer. So we've got to put our foot down and get on with it because it's coming around so quick now.
Very exciting. We can't wait to share again, as Jenny said.
Well, fantastic. And that's a big job too, I can imagine. So best of luck to you with that. We'll be keeping our eyes peeled. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today, Rachel. It's just been such a pleasure chatting with you. Is there anything, before we sign off, are there any maybe little golden nuggets or takeaways you want to leave our listeners with before we sign off today?
I think, as we've said quite a few times, the main message behind everything that I do is to just embrace understanding your health, understanding medication options, what tests you should be having done, get your results printed off, keep them at home, look into supplements, dietary changes, just essentially empower yourself to become your own thyroid advocate. And you can take those in small steps. It really needn't be a big overwhelming situation. So reach out to the thyroid community, whether that's through books, podcasts like this, blogs, social media platforms. Reach out to fellow patients and advocates and get sharing and get talking, and we can unite as this big thyroid family to help one another and get better together.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for being here with us. And for our listeners, you can find Rachel Hill at www.theinvisiblehypothyroidism.com. And you can also find information on her book there that's currently out, Be Your Own Thyroid Advocate, When You're Sick and Tired of Being Sick and Tired. Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Thyroid Refresh TV, where we give you the inspiration and information you need to live thyroid healthy. To receive your free Thyroid Thrivers grocery guide, you can visit us at thyroidrefresh.com. And to learn more about Thyroid 30, which we talked about today. This is our revolutionary 30-day wellness adventure. You can go to thyroidrefresh.com/thyroid30. You do have the power to heal, as we all here agree today, and we have the tools. So we hope to see you at Thyroid Refresh.
And if you've enjoyed this podcast and would like to help us continue inspiring and empowering thyroid patients worldwide, please leave us a review on iTunes. It would make our day, because you are what makes this community the amazing, strong resource that it is. And we appreciate your listenership so much and your support. We're Danna and Ginny, wishing you the best of health. See you next time.
Bye, guys.